The story of the greatest captain and his most famous voyage. The sailors gasped in horror as the mythical beast emerged from the depths of the ocean. What they thought was merely a legend to scare off sailors was real, and it came to haunt them. 1 week before this unexpected encounter, the King of Britain needed supplies from a faraway land, and the king wanted a captain with amazing achievements. There was only one captain he could rely on. He has amassed a great treasure, and he has ventured almost everywhere. The captain has fought the worst of storms. He has dealt with waves that could frighten any sailor, but not him. The king gave him a task only he could complete, a long voyage across the seas to an island far away. The voyage would be long and restless, but the reward for his crew and him was worth the danger they would soon face, but not the unexpected catastrophe they would soon face. As they set sail, they waved goodbye to their families, and finally they have entered the open sea. After about a week, a massive storm appeared out of nowhere, which caught some of the crew off guard. The powerful waves began slamming into the ship, as the waves became increasingly powerful each time they hit the ship. The bombardment of waves seemed to almost never end. They began hoisting the sails to escape the deadly storm, but then the storm stopped out of nowhere. This shocked the crew members, and surprisingly, it also shocked the captain, as he has never had this occur during any of his voyages. The dark clouds still lingered above, but the sea was calm. The waves were no longer slamming them, and the rain and thunder ceased. But all of a sudden, something hits the ship and knocks a crew member off board. This unexpected turn of events instilled fear into the crew as they hastily tried to bring their crew member back on board. As they got closer, they started to feel like they could save him. But there was a sudden change in the waves. They began rippling, almost as if there was something in the water. A crew member shouted to the captain that there was something in the water moving very quickly towards the sailor that went overboard. The eel-like creature went down below the man, and then the man was pulled under while he was screaming for his life. This sent almost everybody on board into shock. Blood began rising to the surface, and there was a lot of blood. They all couldn't comprehend what that creature was, and all that was left of the man was his floating head. The creature was twice the size of a human. It looked like there was something attached to it. The creature got pulled underwater all of a sudden. All of a sudden, they saw a silhouette of a huge monster emerging from the deep. That eel-like creature was just its tongue. The real monster was huge. It had glowing eyes and 6 tendrils on it, 3 on one side and 3 on the other side. Its mouth was filled with thousands of insanely sharp teeth, teeth that could shred through metal. This monster was nothing short of terrifying. Its mouth was almost big enough to swallow their ship whole. The monster began using its multiple tentacles to wrap around to keep them from escaping. Everyone on board began panicking, except for one person, the captain. He told everyone to stop and get to their battle stations so they could repel the monster just enough for them to get away. As they were getting everything ready, the tentacles started to grip tighter. The ship started making loud bellowing and creaking like the hull was beginning to be crushed. Eventually, the crew got everything ready. They shot cannonballs directly at the monster and slashing at its tentacles. It made a deafening screech of pain. The beast let go of its prey, so they started hoisting the sails to escape from the horrifying creature. Some of the crew went down into the hull and began rowing with all of their might. As the monster latched onto the ship once more of the crew went inside the hull to row the ship away from the huge beast. The monster hit one of the masts and knocked it down. The barrowman looked out to the open sea with his spyglass in hopes of there being another ship in the vicinity. But alas, there wasn't a ship in sight. They shot more cannonballs at it, but the monster seemed unfazed by their hopeless attempts to escape. Then the captain rushed towards the massive beast and began shooting it in the eyes to momentarily blind it. It worked, and its grasp slipped just enough for them to escape. Some crew members were still firing cannonballs, and they didn't stop shooting it with their guns. As they rowed away, the monster screeched in anger. Then the wind picked up again, so they rowed and hoisted the sails. They rowed the ship as fast as they could as the monster was charging towards them. The barrowman shot fireworks to notify any nearby ships that they are in danger and request help. Suddenly, the monster roared in pain. The crew didn't know why until the barrowman told them that a ship has come to their aid. The monster rushed towards the other ship, seemingly angry, and so the crew wasted no time to help the other ship against this legendary monster, a beast capable of sinking any ship it crosses paths with. But not the ship of Captain Jack Hoppelberg, who was known across the 7 seas as the most powerful captain to ever live. His fame and glory spans the oceans, the land, and even kings have recognized his potential and great leadership. No one ever dared to challenge him. He has beaten every single one of his opponents, swiftly and easily. No one has ever beaten him. Jack ordered his men to head for the monster and hit it with as many cannonballs as they could. He told them to never give up. As the 2 ships began throwing a barrage of cannonballs, the monster tried its best to block the hits using its tentacles. But there were too many being fired at once, and then the monster roared and started descending underwater. But the ships had a countermeasure. They started wrapping the monster up with ropes and began pulling to keep the monster above water. Captain Jack Hoppelberg grabbed a massive spear and jumped onto the monster and began stabbing it in the head a few times. And then he stabbed it inside the mythical creature's skull. He started kicking the spear to hit the monster's brain to instantly kill it. Eventually he reached its brain, and so he kicked it one last time, and finally it was killed. When they returned, they had lost some good men in the battle, but those men would be honored for facing catastrophic being with no fear. Their effort was not in vain, for they have finally slain the beast known as Yagni-Lissart. And the one who had slain this unholy creature was the great Captain Jack Hoppelberg. His name and accomplishments would be remembered for centuries. There would be stories of his voyages and accomplishments. And the most famous was the story passed down for generations. The story of how Captain Jack Hoppelberg slain the unholy beast, a creature of mass destruction. It was called Yagni-Lissart.